the chair and the vice chair. I can kind of get things going until Michelle gets here, or someone else can if they would like, who's on the committee. Oh, it's Kira on the phone, 828 number. Kira, I'm gonna unmute you on this side. No, that didn't work. I'll work on that. To unmute when you're on the phone, I think is *6.
It worked. This is Kira. Hi, everybody. So I'm on the phone in the pickup line for school.
Okay, so I can send it on the agenda, or I can share my screen. Here, I'll do that in case you don't have the agenda. And then I will send y'all the link if you want it. So the first part is icebreakers. Introduction, name, background. I see Dave. Okay, go ahead, Keith.
Keith Bamberger. I've been on the community council. This is my second term. The first term I was chair. Background, I work for the North Carolina Division of Air Quality, but I also have been working and got an energy management degree, and have been working in and around ways to help people reduce their personal carbon footprint, reduce the amount of air pollution they produce, and hopefully save a little bit of money at the same time.
Jamie, are we going down the list? You're muted, Jamie.
Yeah, Jennifer, you're next on my screen. You should go next.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Jennifer Bennett. I'm the Government Community Relations Manager for Duke Energy, and this is my third meeting. So I'm new to the territory, and I got here in June. Previous to this, I was in hydro licensing. So I did all of the compliance for public access, historic properties, and open lands for hydro licenses for Duke Energy. So I have my background in education is in recreation.
Hi, Micah Kraus. I am a sustainability communications and consultant and coach, and I own my own business working remotely here in Asheville. And my experience really is focused on clean energy communications, working at Environmental Defense Fund and leading communications for Walmart sustainability corporate work. So excited to be here.
I'm Dave Erb. I'm an automotive engineer, retired now. I started out in the heavy truck and transit bus industry and finished most of my career as a college professor. Specialty's been energy and emissions pretty much the whole time. And for the last 25 years or so, it's been electric vehicles. I don't think Clary's here though, is she?
She's not here yet, but she's coming. Maybe Maggie?
Buddy, my name is Maggie Ullman. I have two part-time jobs. One is serving you all on Asheville City Council, and the other is that I build coalitions to address climate change with national nonprofits and foundations.
Okay, everyone, did Seth go?
Hey everybody, Seth Little. For my day job, I design and deploy primarily residential energy efficiency programs for a company called Clear Result. And it's my first time around on the council, and I'm currently chair of the Community Engagement Committee.
I think Ken is the last council member, I think.
Yeah, Ken Nelson. I apologize, I'm a little under the weather. But yeah, I guess this is my last community council meeting to this meeting. I'm president of Blue Delta Energy. We work with a number of municipals, cooperatives, and other industrials working on policy-related issues surrounding sustainability and financing. Active in like the hydrogen rules that everyone's been anxiously awaiting, which were leaked, I guess, this week. Everybody's trying to figure out how the Treasury's rules for green hydrogen, the 45V tax credit, is going to be implemented. So I geek out on the policy side.
There's not very many guests today. Maybe we can all introduce ourselves. I think there's 4. Jim, you want to start us off?
Sure, Jim Tolbert, and I had a 20-year career doing environmental cleanups, and I've spent the last decade trying to influence climate policy, volunteering with CCL, and then 3.5 years on staff with Citizens Climate Lobby, and then left that staff position about 2.5 years ago and helped form a PAC that provides financing to members of Congress that are doing constructive things on bipartisan climate action, the Bipartisan Climate Action Fund, and am now engaging with the Community Outreach Committee.
Yeah, Jim went out on Saturday and talked to a church. Got 5 folks that are interested in electrification and leading the charge on that, so that's exciting. Ed, you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Ed Maggart. I started my career as an environmental chemist, ended up teaching chemistry, physics, and environmental science, and then later was head of an independent school in St. Louis for a number of years. Now I'm back in Asheville where I belong, and I'm doing educational consultant work. I also do another number of things with the Sierra Club, so I get to hang out with Dave.
And then Eva, Jackie, and Kira, I think, are all on here, haven't introduced themselves if you want to go. And then Brad. Brad, why don't you go first and then Zach can jump in.
Okay, yeah, I'm Brad Rouse, and like Jim, I've been working, well, I'm retired from my previous career as a financial advisor, and before that, as a member of a company that develops software for electric utility industry planning, including a lot of the integrated resource planning work. And I am gotten involved in climate quite a bit. One of the things I've done is co-founded the Energy Savers Network, which is part of one of the initiatives of the Blue Horizons Project, involved in Citizens Climate Lobby and some other things as well.
I'm keeping my video off because I have a very distracting foster puppy. If anyone needs a dog.
Right.
No. Jackie Hempstead, I'm staff with Buncombe County. I'm a project manager in the sustainability office. Have a background in sustainability and ecology. Pass it to Eva.
Hi, my name is Eva Davis. I am the new AmeriCorps Fellow serving out of the County Manager's Office.
Gary, you still in the car line?
Okay, I think I'm unmuted. Hi, everybody. This is Kira. My apologies for being on the phone. Had a little change in plans. I'm Kira Boulan, Sustainability Program Manager for the City of Asheville. And my background is in food systems and project management and sustainability. I've been with the city for about 4 years.
Thank you all. I'm Jamie Wine. I work at Greenbelt Alliance. We help administer the Blue Horizons project, and Michelle and I put this agenda together and sent it out to everyone ahead of time. So if there's things y'all want to add on here, please feel free to chime in. If not, then we should approve the November minutes. We need someone to move to approve in a second.
So moved.
And I'll second.
Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes, say yay or raise your hand.
Yay.
Great, approved. There's written reports from staff. They're a little old. I lost Summer. She's working at Frontier Energy now. and Sam is no longer at Greenbelt, so I'm the co-interim executive director. I might need to sit down and work on the staff report with Hannah, but there's a lot going on specifically with Electrify. So I think we'll hear more about that later. Next item on here is a working lands program at Warren Wilson College. This is Michelle's item. Oh, and she's here. Perfect timing. Hold on just a second. Let me let her in. Michelle, we're on the working lands program. You got here just in time. Do you want to introduce yourself and then talk about the Warren Wilson College opportunity?
Yes. Hi, everybody. Sorry to be late. I was stuck in hellish traffic. But Jamie, thank you for running introductions. I had a really wonderful conversation with Dave Ellum, who is the physical manager of the entire Warren Wilson campus. But he's specifically starting a project which he hopes will serve. And thank you, Jennifer, for the introduction to him. I know that folks from the Strategic Planning Committee had been in touch with him around agrivoltaics, and that's kind of how it ended up working in as a main strategy into our 100% plan pathway. So that's good. And they're at a point now where they have a few projects up and running, and once they have a battery installed in their barn, they'll also be converting tractors to all electric. So it's really more than just agrivoltaics. It's an entire carbon neutral farm system that they hope to pioneer on Warren Wilson campus and then start teaching and modeling out. So it seems like a wonderful opportunity for us to see what they're doing there, work it into our communications, and just kind of learn what strategies they're using and become a partner in spreading that understanding. So we are invited to come take a farm tour, and I have some dates starting in January, actually. And yeah, I'm hoping that you guys are excited and interested in participating. I think we can open it up to people, not just council members, but certainly it'd be wonderful for as many council members as can make it to attend. So there's a short pitch. Does anybody have any questions? You guys want to go on a field trip?
Always up for a field trip, Michelle.
I'd love to go on the field trip. Plus, if we go near the meal, they open their cafeteria up to non-college student people, and it's really good and cheap.
And there's great birding on their property.
And great birding, yeah, and yes. And they're doing other stuff besides, net zero carbon. There's all sorts of land management, erosion control, all this stuff that they're doing that's part of the Working Lands program. So January 24th or 26th, and then the time slots are 10, and he notes that it's 10, 1, or 3 p.m., and he notes that at 1, we would have the option of going to the cafeteria. January 7th, and I will put these into a doodle. He just sent them to me 4 hours ago and I didn't have a chance to do it, but I will put these into a doodle and then circulate them to the group, and we'll get back to him and pick a date in the next 2 weeks before the holiday. He also wanted to mention he's working with Soul Farm to put together a panel on decarbonization. That'll probably be the end of January, the beginning of February, and I'll get a little more information on that, and maybe we'd want to co-host or promote in some way. So that's it. Look for a doodle coming around probably tomorrow, and I'll leave it open for 5 days, and then we'll close it whatever date most people who have responded can attend. We'll get back to Dave and let him know.
I heard the 7th. Were there a few others you threw out there? Or you just did the doodle?
Oh, I'll send these. I can drop them in the chat, actually. Let me cut and paste them and drop them in the chat. That's probably the better. Not the 7th. I think it's the 27th is what I said. They're all late January. There you go. So you can put those in the notes if you want, Jamie, but I think it would be challenging to try to schedule in this way. So I'll do it in a doodle.
Copy.
Great. So I actually, one thing that is not on the agenda, Jamie, that we need to add, and maybe there have been some conversations about this, but CC and is not going to serve as vice chair. So per the amendment that we made at the last meeting, and our current bylaw or our previous bylaws even said that we would elect a vice chair in December. So the folks that are eligible to serve as vice chair are incumbents who are serving in at least one more year of service on the BHPCC. We also at our last meeting elected to hold chair elections, so it's not necessarily the case that the vice chair will become the chair. It is a possibility, but not a necessity. So if you are only serving one more year in your term, you are eligible to serve as vice chair. So we need to do that maybe after we do the 2024 membership selection. So it would be under new business, I think. Thanks. So mull on that, decide if you are called to serve in that way. I think for now, we'll turn it over to Dave Erb, who's going to run us through the wonderful candidates that we have to serve on the BHPCC, and maybe even give them a chance to introduce themselves. So Dave, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, what I'd like to do, we have 4 candidates and we have 4 open seats, and we can fill anywhere from 0 to 4 of those seats. And so what I'd like to do is have each of the candidates in alphabetical order give us like a 30-second elevator pitch, just why you want to do this. And then one at a time, we'll do this, the 30-second elevator pitch, and then a chance for the council members rather, to ask questions of the candidates. Following that, we'll have a time for the council to have open discussion of things that we might need to consider. Following that, I will make, again, one at a time, I will make motions I'll move to have the candidate be offered an invitation to join the council. I'll be looking for a second. We'll have discussion about the particular candidate and a vote on the particular candidate, and we'll go through all 4 in alphabetical order that way. So is that, if there are no objections, we'll start that. So just talk over me if you have an objection here. Michelle, did Ashley send a video introduction, an elevator pitch? No? Okay, well, in that case, I'd like to give a quick 30-second elevator pitch for Ashley Featherston. Ashley has been around this area doing very relevant work for what we're involved in for quite a while now. I think it's 25 years or so. She has a tremendous reputation. She has relationships with a whole lot of people. She knows where the money is. She's involved in helping people write grants for air quality improvements. I know there are several people on this call who know her well and who would probably speak very highly of her. My interactions with her have been uniformly positive. I'd really like to strongly recommend that we bring her on the council. So does anybody, I guess I don't know enough to answer questions about her resume. So do we want to skip that section? Or does anybody have a comment about her resume? And Jamie, could we stop the screen share? Thank you.
I'd just like to comment about Ashley, I've been working with her for a really long time in a lot of different ways, and it's always been positive. Yeah, just yeah. I can't really speak to her resume, but I can speak to what she did at different stages of working with Western North Carolina, or actually now it's Asheville Buncombe Air Quality. And she comes to parades, but not dressed in spandex.
So would anyone else like to offer a comment on Ashley?
I wonder if there's any highlights from her interview. I didn't sit in on that. Maybe others that sat in on the interview.
One of the things that I asked her was if she was concerned about any possible conflicts of interest, and she really did not feel like that would be with her day job, because there is a lot of crossover. And she said she really did not feel like there would be, but she would certainly be mindful of those if they should come up. She would expect to recuse herself if there was one. Jackie, do you remember any other, or Jamie?
Yeah, I mean, she was asked a question like what she thinks her role would be on the council, and I think she mentioned like supporting fundraising, grant writing efforts, and connecting BHPCC with other potential community partners and collaborators.
I don't have anything to add. She's a good candidate.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, the next one in alphabetical order is Ed Maggart, and he's here to defend himself. And Ed, 30-second elevator pitch. I'm going to run a stopwatch, and I'm not going to be brutally down to the second, but if you go too long, I'm going to pull out the hook. Go.
Fair enough. Okay. I applied because I think I can really help with community engagement and working with nonprofits. I was an environmental chemist for a long time, but then switched to education, and I've been on regional and international boards. And as an educator, done things like creating a Living Building Challenge certified learning center and starting an educational nonprofit. And currently, I'm the Sierra Club on the Asheville Regional Transit Council. And I also love DEIJ work. I run the Adventure Kids Club for inner city clubs. So bottom line, I care and I can help you get the job done.
Thank you. Does anyone have questions for Ed? No?
Well, must have been really good or really bad, one or the
I was
other.
going to say, hopefully that means they read your resume and you did a good job on it. Okay, so Brad, you're next. Elevator pitch, please.
I guess what I bring to the table is one, my knowledge and background and experience with the energy transition, having worked in the power system planning for over 20 years, and then 10 or 12 years working in the climate movement. I also bring quite a bit of institutional knowledge of the history of the Blue Horizons Project. I was on the original Energy Innovation Task Force, and I founded Energy Savers Network, which is one of the key programs of the Blue Horizons Project. So I have background on Energy Savers Network, and really just a lot of knowledge about the energy and the transition efforts in the community. As some of you know, because you've been on my show, I co-host a radio show called The Climate Buzz, and we air once a week talking about climate issues and with a real focus on local. So I met a lot of people when that.
Hey, the hook's coming out.
Right, and I hope it's not a conflict that we had Dave on the show this week. But
so any questions for Brad?
Yeah.
Okay, hearing no questions. Jim, you're up.
Yeah, I'm the last 2 years, I've spent about 10 years thinking hard and working on federal policy. And the last 2 years of my life, I've put a lot of time into thinking about how to get people to change behavior, which I could talk to you about for a long time. I think that overlaps very well with part of what the Blue Horizons Project needs. I am committed to providing my labor on the Community Engagement Committee. Being part of the council, I also very much would like to be involved with big picture issues and helping set direction and taking focus. I have sat on a couple other boards before, and would very much like to bring the background I have that I reviewed earlier to bear for the goals of Buncombe and the city of Asheville.
Thank you. Does anyone have questions for Jim? I'm not seeing anybody moving in that direction. So do we need to discuss any broad issues like whether we want to fill all 4 seats or anything of that sort?
I think we need all the help we can get. So I would vote for filling the seats.
How about, yeah, move to invite all 4?
Well, I mean, I'm willing to do that if that's okay with folks. Well, I'll tell you what, we can put that into the discussion. I move that we invite all 4 candidates to join the council. Is there a second?
Second.
That was Seth that seconded. Okay, discussion, please.
I really like that their interests are actually all based in the goals of the Blue Horizon Project, but the places that they want to work are kind of diverse. I mean, it's really great that we've got people want to work with communications, people who want to work with funding, and people who want to work in kind of like the technological area. So I think it's a really good way to not fill some holes, but add support to everything that we're trying to do here.
Ken, why don't you comment?
I don't know. I feel rather awkward making this observation, but I will, just so that it's on the record. We're not really doing much for diversity with these 4 candidates.
Do we have is the size of the council prescribed?
Yes, it's 13.
No, I think that's a legitimate concern.
Brad, was that a hand raise or?
I just point of view on this, that the council needs people who are going to be involved and work on things and be active and engaged. But the council also needs to have and adhere to the earlier mission of having representation from the broader community. And, we didn't get people who were interested in doing that in this round of solicitation, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't keep trying to get a broader representation, whether it be the minority community or, something that would give us more diversity, or various areas of the business sector where, a representative from the Chamber of Commerce or a representative from some of the big energy users would be a great thing. So I would be in favor of just acknowledging that you are going to expand the size of the council. Wouldn't be that hard to change the bylaws.
Thanks,
Go ahead,
Brad.
Michelle.
I do want to make sure that we're confining the conversations to voting members at this time, especially as you're a candidate, just to keep it clean. And I think it's a really great point that Ken brought up. I'm not sure that expanding the number of seats is something we're just going to do necessarily. I know it's a strategy you've mentioned in your interview as well, and I get that the more people helping, the better. We had been delaying a DEI workshop for a variety of reasons. That is on the agenda for early 2024. And I think what I hope to do as chair is also maybe taking that training and turning it into a strategy. And what are we going to do to become more inclusive as a council? And I think some of the important work that the community outreach and engagement committee is going to do to make entry points for more diverse voices. And that means also just, to people with different backgrounds, not necessarily clean energy enthusiasts from environmental nonprofits or whatever. I think that at these moments when we're having elections, it's an important point of reflection. And I really appreciate Ken bringing it up, but it's a larger problem that we're not going to fix at the moment we're having elections. We need to be more inclusive in the entry points to our organization, and we need to have a better strategy that when you need your leaders, when you need people to fill seats in the highest levels of our work, we haven't developed the roster of people who are invested in our work to recruit to fill that seat. So I think it's important to note, and I really want to work in the next year to create more entry points and better opportunities for people who are taking the first step in engagement, so that when we're doing a recruitment next year for the board, we have more people to invite. We did do some targeted outreach and engagement. I should say Jamie did some specific outreach and engagement with the folks who had advised on the 100% plan, but it didn't net any applications. So we're not choosing over people that have applied. If we were had candidates and we could choose someone who represented a different voice. I don't know if the council would like to leave a seat open just in case we find someone, but I do know that we do need to be more intentional about how people are getting involved in the work.
I'd like to make a comment, but I don't want, as a person who's moderating, I don't want to step on anybody else at the moment. Does anybody else have a quick comment or comment period?
Go for it.
Go ahead, Seth.
No, go for it.
Okay. I'm sorry. I heard you funny. I think I'm saying something very similar to what Michelle is saying. I think we do have a fair number of entry points that you can come in through committees. You don't have to come on to the council. And that may very well be where we should work to up our recruiting efforts in the coming year, is to get people involved at that level so that they're more known quantities when we get to the point where we're actually looking at resumes to put somebody on the council. That would be my preference. And I think I'm echoing some of what Michelle said. I may have misunderstood you, Michelle. Would you like to? You're good? Okay. So any more comments before we vote on this? Okay, so the motion is that we invite all 4 candidates to join the council, and we have a second. And so all in favor, please raise your hand or say aye or indicate that you'd like that to be the case. Let's see. And I'm just Ken. Okay, so Ken, what is your vote? You're the only one that. Or I'm sorry, Ken and Michelle.
I would probably have been in favor of only offering maybe 3 and leaving a position open for future. So I will respectfully vote in the negative on this vote. That's why we have a committee.
Okay. And Michelle?
I raised my hand in favor.
Oh, you did raise your hand. Okay. All righty. Looks like the motion passes, so I'll turn it back to Jamie.
Or to Michelle?
I was going to say, or Michelle, whoever's running this meeting.
It's an all play today. Thank you, guys. All right. So the next order of business is electing a vice chair. I will take nominations. I guess just a little bit about the role of vice chair. Really, I think other than stepping into chair when your chair is stuck in traffic or whatever the case may be, is obviously one of the roles. And some of the other support areas in particular is recruitment and creating a fair and well-noticed and well-run process for applications to the committee. So that's really falls in the vice chair. And I think what we saw today is, or this year, is that it actually needs to start kind of in August. So it's a large chunk of the year to do a really thorough and equitable recruitment process. So maybe in September. I think the committee did a really good job this year, but I think we did start a little later than we had the previous year. So that's just something to benchmark or to think about. And if you have ideas about how to do recruitment, I think you would be a really good candidate for vice chair, because I think it's one of the more essential roles. Steve?
Yeah, I wonder if anybody has a preference to take on this role. You know, if there's somebody who would really like this role.
Now we have to nominate people that didn't volunteer. Darn it. Well, of who's not here? No.
If I could ask my question in the opposite direction, is there anybody here who just simply would not take it if elected?
Y'all, I apologize. I didn't read the agenda fully. How long have we known that we needed a vice chair, right? Like, and maybe just with the context of like, are other members of the council aware that we're talking about a vice chair today as well?
Well, we.
Go ahead, Keith.
I was just gonna say, we moved the vice chair at the last meeting. We moved the nomination and approval of vice chair to this meeting from, and then with the previous bylaws, it was in January. So yeah, it's a change in timing.
It is not. So the bylaws always stated that the vice chair would be selected in December. What we changed was whether or not the chair serves for 1 year or 2. So actually, per our bylaws, we would always have elected a vice chair in December. So I'm sorry it was not on the agenda sooner. We did have a vice chair who stepped down. And so I should have thought to put it on the agenda sooner, but per the bylaws, we do select a vice chair in December.
Well, yeah, I don't like, no judgment here. I missed the last meeting, so I'm the one who's behind.
Yeah, and it was in the bylaws before the last meeting. Not that I expect you to remember the bylaws, but that particular piece did not change last meeting. It was a different clause. I nominate Beth.
Ooh.
I'll second that if Seth will accept it.
I will accept if Ed or Jim will take over chair of the Community Engagement Committee. And I mean, like part of the agenda today is that I do plan to report on the goals that we established. I'm proud of those goals. I have some ideas about how we're going to move forward on those goals. That said, I'm not necessarily married to them, but my plan to contribute towards this council over the course of the next probably 6 months is centered in those 3 goals. I don't necessarily think that the committee necessarily needs to continue straight on those goals, but I think I can provide value there. And I think that to probably take on both maybe would feel like more than I could accomplish with all the value that I've got. And I would like to see that we do everything well.
Could Jim and I co-chair it?
Yeah,
I'd be
that'd
game.
probably be even better.
I don't mean to speak for you, Jim, but it might be nice for two of us to figure it out together.
I'm game for that.
Okay, I am too.
And I don't want to buck procedure, right? Like
I
if
do-
that's not the way that we establish a chair of a committee, then I would defer to.
And
the process, but
I'm okay with whatever. I'm just saying I'm willing to do that, and that's my suggestion.
I do think that the committee should probably have that conversation, but knowing that you would, in order to accept the nomination of vice chair, you would want to give up the other leadership role. Makes sense.
I can also, step up my engagement on community engagement committee as well. I would go for the vice chair position, but just building a business on my end. So it's very busy over here, and I want to make sure that I do everything I do well. So I will make sure that I'm very involved in community engagement.
Thanks, Micah, and I know you've been involved in that committee for quite a while as well. Wonderful. Any other discussion, or if you want to volunteer for vice chair now, you're still welcome to. Any other nominations? All right. All in favor of Seth taking on the role of vice chair, with the caveat that he gets to step down as chair of the community engagement committee. Say aye or put aye in the chat, or raise your hand. And could you imagine if they said no after they didn't volunteer? So terrible. I did not happen to see Jennifer's vote, so if you could just let me know, or if any abstentions or nays. All right, seeing none. Thank you, Seth, for being willing to accept my nomination. I appreciate that.
Thanks for the opportunity, y'all.
Nice. Okay. Now I've lost the agenda.
Next is the Clean Energy to Communities program, the expert match.
Oh, thanks. Could we have, and I think Brad and Keith, this is you. Could you guys report out on what the initiatives committee, what they were able to uncover about that program, and if it's something we feel like is a good fit for the BHPCC or the BHP as a whole, I guess.
Sure. So we talked about it. And at first we kind of thought that it wasn't necessarily a good fit, but as we delved down and looked deeper into the whole program, there are a lot of places where we really could potentially interact. I think, and this from memory, I didn't check our notes, but in particular in the technical assistance area, raise I'm going to try to share. Am I allowed to share, Jamie? Sure. There we go.
You should be allowed to share, yeah.
All right. Let's go with that. So this is in the technical service and support, and we went basically to all these different areas. Some of them are they're different patterns, different things. Some are like 6 hours of advice. Others are helping us build more community support or technical reviews. So we thought that there's definitely potential here. And the energy to clean energy programs. This is a partnership which has peer leading in cohorts. This one seems particularly effective. They also, though, have different timing. So there wasn't like a grant. Some of them are perpetual where you can apply at any time. Others, this one is actually a cohort program, so they're not building new cohorts right now. So I think it's worth spending more time looking into. Gonna stop sharing. Brad, do you have any additional thoughts? I know you were during the meeting.
I didn't catch that last, Keith, but I don't really have any additional thoughts. I thought we had identified maybe the Electrify program is one of the areas where they might want to look into utilize. I mean, basically for people who haven't seen this before, this is a program that offers some degree of, well, it doesn't offer money. So, one of the issues that I had with it was the fact that, we've had a reduction in funding. And so our professional staff is very limited. So, but it does offer some technical assistance. And my thought was, well, you need somebody who's doing something where they have enough time to even get assisted. And, the Electrify program might be one of those where there is some money going to that. Maybe they could use some technical assistance. Maybe community engagement in general. It just wasn't clear that to me that this was an area where we should spend a lot of time trying to get an award of technical assistance versus other things we might do. So I was just kind of skeptical, but it doesn't mean it couldn't be something in here that we could use. I mean, it could, I suppose it could, but it's not coming to me right up front.
I mean, it seems like a good strategy would just be to run through the projects listed in the strategic plan and be like, which of these is the next step? Some kind of technical assistance? Is it agrivoltaics? Do we need some kind of mapping assistance or something like that? But maybe you guys already did that and decided that we don't have the staff to support it, which is fair.
Yeah, when we were discussing it, I mean, it isn't providing funding, it's providing assistance. And, there are some ways that we think it could fit. And I think it's what we should be aware of and try to keep on that as programs evolve, where we might be able to plug in and use it as a resource. I also think that in some ways, like with the technical assistance or the cohort planning, I'm sure that we could, with the Energy Savers program, I'm sure we could provide leadership in some ways to the groups because, we've already got it established with a good success, and helping other communities move forward. And that is also something that I think that we could do in that area if we have staff and resources and time, which are mostly no's right now.
So when I looked at it, I thought it, go ahead, Jackie.
Well, I was just gonna say, I know it's not, it doesn't fund a project, but I think these types of opportunities, if you take advantage of them and you've developed a plan with a technical expert, it really primes you for funding opportunities that will actually pay for a project. So I think it's a good first step.
I was looking at the categories of partners that are eligible, and it says organizations. It doesn't say any entity that is like it doesn't say business or company. And so Electrify Asheville Buncombe is a partnership with the city and the county. I don't know. I think BHP might have to be the entity that applies, or a government entity. I don't think a business could apply if we wanted it for the electrification program specifically. That's one idea, because Brad did mention to me that he thought that maybe the Electrify program would be the best fit for it because it's the furthest along. So if BHP wanted to apply for this on behalf of the electrification program, that might be helpful. And then the other thing is, I wonder if the technical assistance could be to do a technical review of our roadmap. Like when we left and we were concerned about solidifying that strategic plan, we said that we knew that it was a start and that there were many of those programs we've written with our understanding based on who we have on the council and maybe other people who we've asked, but it certainly isn't like, we didn't actually then send it even to NCSEA for any technical review. We didn't actually send it to like those third and the Rocky Mountain Institute or any other like out there kind of think tank hasn't reviewed our document and weighed it and certainly hasn't like furthered it in any way, right? So I think part of the reason we referred it to the initiatives committee is we thought maybe that's kind of where the strategic planning document lives now, right? So I wonder if that committee sees value in that, and based on their analysis of that, what they found on the website, like, is that the type of technical assistance that they might be able to do?
Well, I think it's the initiatives committee. You know, it's not the strategic plan because, you know, there's three elements that, I mean, either the initiatives committee or the community engagement committee, and I'm not to say that they might not need technical assistance as well, but I think it's a really good point, Michelle. Maybe we could look at, okay, how do we take the strategic plan for initiatives and move that into where we actually get some initiatives going that weren't otherwise going, versus picking one of our initiatives and doing a plan for that, but just the overall process that we might need. I mean, I feel it a little bit of a loss now that we've have the plan and established the initiatives committee, but how do we actually, you know, with no money, how do we make initiatives happen is a real, you know, I question what we're going to do. So maybe we could get some assistance. Yeah.
And specifically, there is a technical policy review to provide support and understanding, option, and encompassing our energy-related goals in the technical support area. So,
in terms of sorry, Keith.
I mean, that could definitely be a place where we can. I do like that idea of reviewing the.
And in terms of,
yes, go ahead. Sorry.
In terms of policy initiatives, I don't think we have like a policy writer, right? And I don't think it's actually not necessarily the role of like city and county staff to write policy that we want to pass. So that is one of three initiative areas in the strategic plan. So I could see that specific area where we could use technical assistance, but I'm not sure that I would apply for the grant just to get that because I don't have an idea of what policy specifically we want to move forward. But I could see using some technical assistance for that.
Well, how about this?
So could we, go ahead.
That we'll take another look and look more deeply into how we can use this to potentially support our strategic plans and where to go next. And if I give people a little bit of homework as you think about things we want to do, maybe spending a little more time looking at that. But we can certainly look more deeply into how we can use support and get to the next steps of our strategic plan if you'd like. Yes, no, maybe?
I think that sounds good. Does anybody else from the committee have any thoughts on it?
I kind of resonated with the technical review of the strategic plan, right? Like, I think that I can see a lot of value there. I don't know if it's tight enough to qualify for the grant, but I can see the value.
It really becomes advice to all of us in a lot of ways, and be a lot of value to that.
So I guess we want to ask the initiatives committee to go ahead and start filling out the application and let us know what other supporting materials they need.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
And then hopefully we can get that in January. Does that sound good? So if you need, does anybody else feel like they want to help on this? I think it's important that BHP staff look at it. So if we can get it to BHP staff for review, and then I'd like to look at it as well.
I mean, I think if it has
because
to be
we meet
nonprofit,
so
then
early in the year. And then do you guys have any more information about the cohort? Keith said I'm not building a cohort at this time.
Well, in the cohort, and where did
Because
at the moment, they're not building another cohort. They're starting, I think the cohort's on an annual basis, and so we didn't really get our eyes on this until after they had taken applications for 2024, because it has their agenda on what they're doing with the cohort, and they're having a meeting in January. So that's my, yeah.
I believe I sat in on a webinar about this, and it's something like it's actually for city and county staff to participate in a cohort for small cities that are working to reach some sort of sustainability renewable energy goal, not necessarily 100%. Is that right?
Yes. But it
So
also
it
says
seems
community-based organizations and other public entities. So they are community-based organizations, which is what we are eligible. But
staff, I think it's staff, maybe then. Okay. Well, let's consider that then for 2025, I guess, if they do another one. Great. Let me know if you need any support. What is our next meeting date? I'm just wondering, because we do meet the first Wednesday of the month, and I haven't looked at the 2024 calendar yet. Do we need to bump that because
January
of holiday or
3rd.
anything?
It's on the calendar for January 3rd.
No, it's on the 3rd. With the holiday, I wouldn't expect the initiatives committee to meet again before then. Does that seem right?
I think we are meeting, aren't we, Keith?
You are?
Yeah, that's, what is it, a week from it's 2 weeks from Monday, the 18th. I mean, the 18th?
yeah, we've got it on the calendar for the 18th.
Okay, great. So if you guys could take this up at that meeting, potentially work up a draft, or at least come up with what you need from the rest of the group and send that out before the next meeting, that would be great. And then hopefully we'll have a draft that we can actually approve at the next meeting, if that's possible. Or at least know what we need in order to apply.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Next is the DEI workshop. It's going to be at City Hall on February 7th on the 6th floor. You should come. Aisha Adams is going to facilitate.
So that will be our February meeting. We're not having another February meeting. So that'll be good. And now we just have committee reports. And I know the Community Engagement Committee had a face-to-face meeting, and you have some strategic goals that you're sharing. Seth and others, do you want to share that with the group?
Yep, and y'all keep me honest if this doesn't encapsulate it, but I think we've been talking for a few weeks actually about putting some concrete goals in place for the committee, especially following the release of the strategic plan. And I think that we reached a consensus that we wanted to identify some smart incremental initial goals that the committee could deliver on, achieve some success, demonstrate that success. And really begin to lay the groundwork for actually engaging the community. And we were working towards that as we held that in-person meeting. And actually, one of the things that we got to do at that meeting was, Michelle, thank you for also attending and presenting on Electrify Asheville. And I thought we had a really good session where we were able to kind of whiteboard and brainstorm around ways that effort could engage with various stakeholders. And that really, for me, demonstrated the power of the Community Engagement Committee as an area of expertise or an area where we could provide value to, the various organizations and the various stakeholders associated with the council. And so we actually kind of on the fly, two of the goals that we had been forming, I think, became more concrete, and then we added a third, and that third is maybe kind of less goal and more just kind of consistent commitment. So the three goals that we've basically landed on are these. One, in kind of an ongoing strategic way, to continue to support ad hoc tactical needs of the Blue Horizons Council, Greenbelt, Energy Savers, and Electrify Asheville, kind of as needed. And again, just to provide the expertise and the perspective to those various groups from the Community Engagement Committee. Secondly, we engaged to, by the end of March 2024, develop an outreach program aimed at helping Buncombe County businesses and nonprofits use less energy and transition away from fossil fuels, including environmental education, technical guidance, and amplification of their efforts, with a plan to launch during Earth Month and announce and implementing and measuring the impact of the outreach program quarterly. And so, maybe just with a little bit more color there, I think the idea is some sort of like Blue Horizons project partner program. And I think it's maybe illustrated in terms of like it's a window decal that local businesses can achieve by, committing to aligning their plans to our plan, right, to being 100% renewable by 2042. And then also, in ways that I think will determine to commit to supporting the activities of the Blue Horizons project. And then in return, right, like we can provide technical assistance, we can do energy assessments, we can help with decarbonization planning. And then we can also provide services like listing businesses as Blue Horizons partners, named TBD. But, here is a method, one of those entry points that Michelle referenced for businesses and for nonprofits to partner with the Blue Horizons project, a way for us to promote them and for them to promote our efforts. I think that, whatever, maybe talk next steps in a separate forum. But so that's goal number 2. And then goal number 3 has some similarity, but also by the end of March 24, develop a volunteer program aimed at educating community members and engaging the broader community to support the City of Asheville and Buncombe County's equitable transition to 100% renewable energy by 2042. And then similarly announce and kind of launch formally during Earth Month. And then begin implementing and measuring impact of the volunteer program quarterly. And so for color here, I think this looks like developing developing volunteer infrastructure, right? So we've got a good email list at the moment. We've got tracking on people who are on that list. But, you know, can we add a little infrastructure? Can we do some kind of further organizing so that we can have a kind of more informed and more empowered volunteer base and kind of use the value of that volunteer base better? And then also institution of kind of like train the trainer efforts so that we can use to actually empower volunteers, right? So that when we've got somebody like Jim who wants to go talk to a church, that we can provide them with materials, that we can, you know, help make sure that they understand the strategic plan, you know, ways that they can demonstrate value to whatever audience that they're going to visit and present on. So those are our 3 goals. And that's what we plan to focus on leading up until at least, you know, like, you know, again, plan launch in April. Any thoughts? Questions? I think, you know, with, you know, the way that, you know, we talk about the initiatives committee and the idea of a champion, I think, and again, you know, I was not expecting as part of today's discussion to have any change to my role with this group, but as what I was thinking about heading into this meeting was that I think that, you know, like that first goal is kind of just a stated commitment, right? Like, let's continue to be available to anybody within our organization to be able to help and support. But those other 2 are really far more specific and far more time focused. And I was thinking about today seeking out champions for those 2 goals and thinking about what next steps are, right? So, I mean, if anybody is interested in being champion for either development of kind of a commercial outreach program or has specific, kind of canvassing and organizational development for volunteer programs, I think, you know, it would be great to have champions for both of those and to begin to outline next steps for how we get from where we are with some really good ideas to a great launch for Earth Month for both those initiatives.
One thing that I've been thinking about and trying to get involved with is one sector, one piece of that pie that's pretty big in Asheville, which is the brewing sector. So I'm going to be, I joined the AVL Beer Week committee that's leading up to May, which is a whole week focused on beer in Asheville. But I'm making sure that the event itself and all the participants are, you know, as green as possible. And then we'll be holding at least 3 sustainability related events during that week. So I'm trying to get involved with the Brewing Alliance and then try to have a couple of events or workshops or whatever they might be throughout the year. So I've already made those connections and would be really, you know, happy to champion that piece of the pie within the corporate goal. And so that's what I'll be taking on.
Yeah, I mean, on that goal too, like I had a thought that maybe we like identify maybe somewhere in the neighborhood of like 5 either businesses, you know, a mix of businesses and nonprofits, and like kind of use them as maybe pilot participants, get their feedback on what would be valuable to them by participation in a program like this. And I think having a brewery, at least a brewery as one of those makes quite a bit of sense.
Mike, I was going to add a thought. I don't know how many. I know there's at least 2 training programs for brewmasters and people going into the industry in this area, and that seems like a great place to maybe offer people who could come to classes and make that part of an education. So when folks go out, they're already thinking about this stuff and have some background instead of playing catch up once they get there.
Thank you so much, Ed. Yeah, that's definitely on the list. Trying to meet with those folks, and actually, I'm connecting with Ashley, who's now on the council, about a project that some students did at UNCA. Keith, thank you for making that connection. Where they were working with 5 brewers here in Asheville and did a project on energy efficiency, water efficiency, and renewables. So we'll be highlighting that throughout the year. And so really looking forward to working with those different programs, and also UNCA. Thank you.
We're raising hands.
Clary?
I,
new codes of raising hands.
I'll just say that, Mike, this is great. And, it's an example where it's going to blur between an initiatives committee and a community engagement committee, because, given that we actually don't have any money, then in a sense, every initiative that we have is going to be in a community engagement activity, because there's not going to be to do it.
Right. Oh, go ahead. Clary, no, go ahead, please.
I just wanted to say this is great work, Community Engagement Committee. It feels exciting to hear about, and I would be very interested in being involved in either of those second two initiatives. So business community or community, outreachy stuff. Loop me in.
Thanks. Jim, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah. So as Seth, as we've talked before, I'm very interested in the individual strategy. It's where I've put a lot of my thought for the last few years, and then been testing out ideas along those lines. And I'm willing to put the time and the commitment into leading that initiative.
Wonderful. I do, to Brad's point about initiative committee versus community engagement committee, and then the role of the BHPCC as a whole, because there's no way that 1 or 2 or 5 or 20 people in a committee can do all of the work that's in the plan, the strategic plan. So I think we just need to continue to think about, and Seth, I hope that this, and Micah and others, this fits in with the community engagement committee's goals as well, is that we really think about what we're referring back to the council and what we're asking for support on, and use this as the way that those things aren't disparate at all, but are all coming back to this one body. So you're working to advance those things outside of these meetings, and we're talking about it here in this place. So, we have to divide the work up somehow, and the committee structure is the best we have to do that so far. So it's not that you're responsible singly for doing all the things in any one committee. It's doing the things that need to be advanced, like filling out the grant application or whatever at that committee meeting to further the mission of the whole, right? So in that way, Seth, is there anything you want? I think everyone just kind of went around and signed up, so that's great. But is there anything else you want the committee as a whole to be thinking about? Are we looking forward to? You mentioned like program name to be announced. So like maybe there's something happening with the commercial side of this that you'll have a proposal for us coming up, or the committee will have a proposal, I guess I should say.
Yeah, I think maybe just more to come, and stay interested. I think if in this setting at this meeting, right, like if you guys didn't hear anything that you think that is top and timely priority for the community engagement committee that we missed, I'm a big fan of blind spot examination, right? Like if you're like, I cannot believe they didn't come up with right now, like I'd be really interested in hearing that. But I think other than that, like if you think like we're in good shape for starting with these as kind of our like kind of half-year goals, then look for more at the next meeting for us to review, which maybe could include a name for a couple initiatives.
Thank you. Okay, I think the initiatives committee is also on the agenda. You had a presentation. I know we already discussed the application, but you guys had a presentation from Mountain True. Is that right?
We did. Susan Bean came in and talked about their Neighbors for More Neighbors program, which is kind of a community engagement or policy. It's both a community engagement and policy program that they have. It really overlaps. I mean, the whole idea is the missing middle, and actually the city of Asheville was doing a missing middle study. Kira may have something to say on that. At least I think it was the city of Asheville, where they're looking at changing some of the regulations so that we can get more, I guess, density in our current single family zoned communities. And so Mountain True, and I don't know how we support that exactly, but I think, I mean, I'm certainly willing to say that should be one of our initiatives too, that we help amplify, if nothing else, because it ties into, we had identified walkable, bikeable communities and reducing vehicle miles transferred as some of our key long-term transportation committee initiatives that didn't involve just getting everybody in electric cars, but actually involved less use of cars overall. And so, Keith, I don't know if you want to have anything to add. Again, I think we all agree we want to support this effort, but not sure how exactly.
So one of the things that Stu was really clear on was that when we are supporting, or when they are supporting anything that is not business as usual, it's really important to be careful with the messaging and how we talk about these things. She used a really good example of a community which thought they had all their ducks in a row about how to do a really, to support walkable communities and density, and then it just fell apart. And she kind of felt that the person who did this kind of felt that it was because of messaging, because everybody agreed with the ideas. So there was a lot of, as we said, there's a lot of crossover. We talked a lot about the presentation to the community. And there was a good article about the missing middle in the Raleigh News and Observer that actually came out like the day after we had our meeting. Go ahead and post that link in the chat.
So just to be clear, the whole thing is about urban density, or about density within the city of Asheville?
So that's the thing. So if we're going to increase density in the city of Asheville, and that is not everything that Susan was talking about. It's not everything that the program is, but it is. If we're going to meet both goals, density is something we're going to have to figure out how to make it appealing to people. And we're not talking about and how to incentivize density, combat sprawl. And we're not alone in this. I mean, most communities are dealing with this problem of how can we have small scale projects which have more density and all the benefits of that.
But keep the basic nature of the community. So
right,
like Montfort was shown up as an example, I think I read about, which is already kind of older and already had a lot of what they have in mind for other communities, which is not so much, you can increase density by tearing a bunch of down a bunch of single family homes and building a big complex.
I think we understand the general concept. So I just wondered, this specific ask, like Mountain True's campaign, I'm not sure what its objectives are specifically. I understand the concept, and I don't know that you guys have explained it. What do they want us to do to help? Or what's the role of the BHP here? Nothing at this time is fine.
We need to figure that out.
Okay. Yeah.
They were just really, I mean, there are a lot of common goals there. So we just have to be aware where those are coming together. I think that's the best way I could phrase it.
And do they have a coalition, or is it just Mountain True?
So I think it's safe to say that they're in the building mode. I mean, they're looking for partners. They're hoping that we will partner with them, which right now it seems a little bit nebulous to say we're going to partner with them. But we did tell her that we supported what she was working with, and that we understand there's commonality in our goals. But we're not. I don't think with partners, I think you have to be really specific, and we're not to that point yet.
Okay. And is she going to follow up if they need us to be more specific in like putting our name or logo on something?
I think she will, and I hope we invited her to come back to the meetings, but I think that we'll need to continue this conversation however we can, whether it's inviting her to come to the next Green Buildings event like we had last time to get her in the room just so we can have more casual conversations. That's kind of where I feel like we're at, and trying to figure out the best ways, because we just got introduced. It's more like speed dating than actually having a real date.
Okay. Thank you for helping me understand where we're at in the process. Other committees, transportation. It sounds like this was kind of about that. Did transportation meet otherwise?
So we didn't. I shared some opportunities to interact. I didn't have it in my time capacity to meet, but, and I think it got pushed out to all of y'all. There's some, they're doing, the French Broad MPO, Metropolitan Transportation Planning Organization, has some surveys out now, which would be important to get feedback about how, especially how it links to the strategic plan, things about reducing VMT and all of that. And if you want to fill out a survey and be loud, this is the time, because I don't think very many people are going to fill it out just because transportation surveys are not very filled out. And if you'd like, I can't find it quickly right now to put it in the chat, but if I stop talking, I might be able to do it.
I might also have it. It was sent to my neighborhood association. So there's a meeting on December 12th at the Wesley Grant Center on the south side, but I don't have the survey. But the meeting's at 6 p.m. Says comments can also be emailed to Tristan at Land of Sky.
Yeah, let me. Yes, and he is the director of the MPO, and yeah.
I don't even have a link to the plan of what that they're commenting on. So if you could, sorry, I thought I did, but I don't.
I'll look for it.
Thank you.
Okay. And if I don't find it now, I'll email it to you.
Sounds good. Policy committee didn't meet. I had to bump some meetings because I actually, Jim, I think we both got COVID at the the in-face meeting for Blue Horizons Project. Sorry, anyone else that wasn't feeling well. And so I have a meeting with Parker Sloan, who will be joining the BHP, and Clay from the City Planning Department. And I think that'll set us the policy, give a little more direction to the policy committee once we can actually get those meetings together and think about what some of the opportunities there might be for policy change at the city and the county. There's one item we skipped over that I kind of want to come back to, because I think the recruitment committee did a wonderful job, and we still have this kind of outstanding item of new member packets. And it's something that we got some feedback at the last round that it felt like new members didn't know how to access information about what's happening in the Blue Horizons project and kind of where we're to date. And I just want to make sure that we have that on our radar, and also like someone's actually doing the work of sending those and orienting our 4 new members, other than Brad, because he already knows, right? But so we have a couple items. We're going to send the bylaws, the charter, the 100% plan. I think it's important maybe to show people how to sign up for the newsletter. I kind of realized that I wasn't getting the newsletter at one point, so we're not all, I don't know if you guys are signed up to get the Blue Horizons Project newsletter, but it wasn't something that we're automatically signed up for, so you have to actually go do it. Jamie, unless you just want to roll all the BHP members in, which wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, but
Yeah, I could do that.
so does anybody feel like it's inappropriate to automatically enroll BHP members in the BHP newsletter? Good, we're gonna do that. What else? What are we missing? What should be included in a new member packet? And then before we get off the call, I want someone to be on the hook for actually sending it.
Links to the Google Drive and the shared resources.
Mm-hmm. Now, is the Google Drive publicly accessible? So if you just have the link, is that good, or do you actually have to be added to a drive?
Yeah, actually, even ground rules for like who puts stuff in it. I think a fair set of little, ground rules can be appropriate.
It's not all publicly accessible, restricted access by individuals. I know Jennifer can't get into it, so I have to send her documents, and that might be the case for other people's information systems as well. And I'm happy to do that.
So we'll give access to all new members, and also understand if you need PDFs, those can be provided. Is that right? Okay.
Yes.
Is there any other part of new member orientation? Maybe Jennifer, you're the most recent person to have gone through this. Is there something we should be doing that we're not?
Coming in on the heels of Jason, I think probably it's a little bit different for me as far as just kind of coming in and getting grasp on it and acclimatizing. But I would say the PDF of the documents are helpful. I think that's stylistic in nature, whether you tend to go to like a Google Drive or you back reference communications. But I think having that initial copy is helpful. I think it's probably in the Google Drives, which I have a really hard time accessing. I can get approval. It's like for 10 days at a time. So that's real helpful in the long range, but I'm working on that on my end. But list of the committee meeting times and then the links to the committee meeting access points.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think just to know, and it seems weird to put it in there, but how people like to be communicated with, like if you are, do we have I know Jamie sends out email communications. Do we have a listserv type of communication that is council based? Does that include initiative members? Kind of what that structure is like, because I know there's a lot of people doing a lot of work. As someone who's new to this, understanding what that breakdown does, council member responsibility, people who are working on the initiatives or in the initiatives groups that aren't council members, is it okay for communications to go everywhere? But kind of a rundown on that. And that might be in there, Michelle. Apologies.
No, I think it's not clear. I think it is not clear. So there's a spreadsheet that I cut and paste from in order to send member communications in the Google Drive, but I actually don't know if anybody else even looks at that besides Jamie. I think the membership committee was given access to it because they needed to know who was on the roster and who was rolling off the roster. And I think there was some history with the listserv of members, where the listserv tool wasn't working properly, but it kind of predates my time, which means it predates Ms. Urban's time, unless anybody has, Keith or Jamie, if you have any insight. And so there is no listserv. It's a cut and paste of individual contacts, right?
And the listserv might be relatively antiquated. Whatever the current tool is, it's most convenient for everybody, other than just kind of replying all to Jamie's email, which I don't know that we can actually do, because I think normally I think
if everyone's comfortable, I think all council members should at least have each other's email. So maybe in the new member packet, we at least do like a name, if there's a title or a role or a chair, or whatever you are in the council world, maybe a title that is your professional title, just so people have a context of who they're communicating with, and then an email. Does that seem okay?
That seems fine to me. Whenever I email y'all, I have my own list. And there was a list, like you said earlier, that you have to cut and paste. And that's what we were using when I was chair, from the list that you can find on the Google Drive if you know where it is on the Google Drive,
Yeah,
which is
maybe just having it in that new member packet, so it's one of the few documents that you then can save and then reference, might be helpful.
But are there distribution lists associated with that? And now we're kind of doing the dive into me being new and still figuring things out. So, but for the different committees, are they just historical lists, communication lists that are sent out based on who has been in the meeting in the last time? I know, Jamie, I get communications from you, but are there other communications going around about committees that you only get on if you ask to be put on that? Or is there does that make sense? A distribution that someone can say, hey, add me to this distribution list in case I want to attend? Like, what does that look like? How does that typically function?
I would say I just email the list. That's this larger list is segmented into different groups, and there are duplicates. But when I copy and paste it into the BCC field, it deduplicates those, so that's helpful. But it's simple. Like, I don't have a software or a listserv program or anything like that.
So Jamie's just emailing everyone all of those announcements.
Well, to some extent, though, from what I understood Jennifer's question, like Seth would email the Community Engagement Committee separately, and that didn't go through Jamie, and that went through a different list that Jennifer may or may not see.
Yeah, like that list, like that directory that's on the drive, like includes committee association. And so, like, to your exact use case, I just went and grabbed all the committee members out of that Excel document, and fortunately they all pasted in.
So can I ask a point of clarification? Michelle, you keep talking about members. Are you talking about the 13 community council members, or is there a broader universe of people we're calling members? Seth just referred to a much broader list of people that also sit on subcommittees, which I imagine goes well beyond 13.
I can't remember when I said member, sorry. I think I was referring to council members appointed.
Okay,
and
yeah, I think you were too. I was just, yeah, trying to wrap my head around what we're talking about.
But there are these committee lists. So I think, and there's a lot of people who have been involved or are on these lists historically that maybe haven't come to a meeting in a while, but if something was happening of interest or in their subject area of expertise, they may come to a meeting like a committee. So I think it's important that members are able to communicate with members. I don't know that members need to communicate with committees, and they can always access the Google Drive or Ask Jamie. So in terms of sending out a document, I think is what I was referring to, a document with member context so that members can communicate with other members. I mean, BHPCC seated representatives should be able to communicate with all BHPCC seated representatives in some way. And maybe that would be a PDF or something that they could save versus having to find it in the drive every time, is my thought. That should be included in a new member packet, but also access to the drive where the larger list is housed.
That makes perfect sense.
Great. Okay, are there any announcements? There is one. Jamie sent it around. There's a job opening with the Green Bank. I'm very excited about it. But it's an opportunity to support the Electrify Asheville-Buncombe program by working as a program manager at the North Carolina Clean Energy Fund. And he did set it to the list, broader, I believe. And I have it up and I can pop it in the chat if anyone is interested in that. Jen Weiss from the Green Bank mentioned that they'll probably have one more week where they'll be considering applicants for this. Jamie, maybe you did this at the beginning, but there's a webinar coming up, right?
There's one, the DEQ webinar is tomorrow at 6:30. It's about how municipalities and tribes can participate in the climate pollution reduction grants through the Inflation Reduction Act. It's tomorrow.
And then is there also are you hosting a webinar?
Oh, I'm hosting a webinar on Friday. Yes, midday. I've got like a handful of folks that are gonna talk with me about HVAC systems, I think is what I'm talking about. I've got to organize my slides, I think.
Are you gonna record it?
Yes.
That should go on our website after you record it.
Okay.
And it is in the BHP newsletter. So if you're not getting that, sign up on our website. But you will automatically be enrolled and get the next one for sure. Actually, can I just see a show of hands of who is getting that newsletter? Would you mind forwarding it out to the list, Jamie, just so that for folks who aren't already automatically enrolled, they see what's gone out in the December newsletter?
Yeah, I can do that.
Thank you. I know you're busy, and I'm sorry to add to your list, but I think it's really well done, and it's really important for the members to know what you're doing.
Oh, I wish Summer could hear you. She's wrote all of them. She's good at it.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
I know we're running short on time, but I wanted to know, I had taken away a couple of questions that people had in our last meeting or two. I think there were some that extended from the previous one as well, about tariff on bill, as well as there were some questions in there about EE programs for multifamily dwellings. So I have, I have responses to the tariff on bill, but I'm waiting on some written responses for the questions that I posed from the SME for that group. So he's been tied up for a little bit, but I expect that I'll have them. And my thought, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong, I'm new here. Did I mention that? My thought was to bring that information to the initiatives. You tell me how you would like that information to come in. And Michelle, Jamie, we can connect on, if you want to connect offline on what that information is. I think that we'll probably have more of this on the future where there's clarification or questions or additional information about specifically some Duke Energy programs, new ones rolling out, or historical programs. So maybe there's an answer now, maybe you want to mull over it, but the best way to get it to you. Or to
the information you have, you have it in like written form?
I will.
Okay.
And there was some pretty specific information. So I want to make sure it gets out in that manner.
Would you like an opportunity to run through it in the January meeting?
Sure. I think that's, I think it's information that the broader group might be interested in because it is a relatively new program that's coming out. So I didn't know, I don't want to limit it to an initiatives committee, but I want to be efficient in how I share it.
I think the questions came up as part of like next steps on initiatives that we were diving into as the BHPCC, and I think we all are interested in the follow-up. So why don't we host it here, and then it's recorded, and anyone who wants to see it can also see it, and it will be posted on the website eventually as well.
Great. So I'll send it to you when I get it, and then we'll just, if it's okay, we'll make an agenda and we can talk about it together. Is that what I'm hearing?
You and I and Jamie can talk about it. Would you like to be on the agenda for this meeting in January? So the whole committee then you'll be just going
I think that's what I heard would be the best way to share that.
And we can talk about it since it is January 3rd.
We can off the new year with a committee. Yeah.
So if you want to have a pre-meeting on it, I could do it on the 1st or 2nd, or we could maybe
No. I wasn't just suggesting a pre-meeting. I was just suggesting send you the information to get on the agenda if you want. So
sounds great. Perfect. Thank you. I think that's it. Does anybody have any final comments? We do have public comment. I don't see any other than our new committee members. I don't see any members of the public present, but final comments.
So I have a question.
Okay.
I know I've already used all my words for this meeting, but has anybody followed up with Nathan Johnson from the Irene Wortham Center from that email that Jamie sent?
Yeah, I have, and he's supposed to call me in the near future.
All right. I talked to him about it, but I'm not the tech guy. But he wants to when we were kind of talking about, he's expecting to feel a little bit of pushback from all this when he presents to the facility coordinator about anything that's not standard run-of-the-mill building. And he wants to make sure that it's as efficient as possible. It's a big project. Geothermal is not out of the question, putting solar in and all that, but thank you for reaching out to him, Dave. But he's going to need some help to convince management that this is the way to go. All right.
I have one final thing, just encourage people who, Energy Savers Network is going to double duty to make more use of their equipment to try to, I think, determine a pathway to make a little bit more money by more projects going on single days. And so they need more volunteers. And if anybody wants to volunteer or wants to talk up the opportunity of volunteering in this work through Energy Savers Network, send them to the website or to Jamie. But that would be a good thing to people to do.
Very popular this meeting. My ears are burning. But yeah, send them our way. We're going to double, I think, the production that we're doing with mobile homes for weatherization. It's exciting.
A few days a week, double.
Are you all what's your schedule like through the holiday? Is the office closed for a week or?
The office isn't closed. I'm going to be gone between Christmas and New Year's.
Are you looking for volunteers over the holiday?
Well, yeah, it's on the calendar.
I'm gonna pull it up, but yeah.
I would imagine as it starts to get cold, there's more people interested in services.
Yeah, we get fewer cancellations too.
I see two projects on the 20th and one on the
and there's one on the 21st and the 22nd. But the week of the 25th, I don't see any. I think the crews are out of town.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. And happy to help, especially as I know it's chilly. Any other announcements? We are way over time and folks are dropping off, but any final announcements? I want to say thank you to the members who are rolling off, Dave and Ken, who's already gone, I think. And I think that's it for members. Your service has been fantastic. Dave, thank you for bringing the Nominations and Elections Committee to its final conclusion. That's really important to do, especially as we're trying to fill your shoes. And congratulations to the new members. We look forward to seeing you in January.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks. Have a happy holiday, everybody.
Happy holiday.
Thank